So I'm honored to present the first award for the evening, the Diamond Crown Award. The significance of the Diamond Crown gives us an opportunity to honor our longest living president. Born at Shore Hills, St. George's, Elizabeth Musson Carewally grew up in Pembroke and was educated at the Central School and Berkeley Institute. On being awarded the Bermuda Government Scholarship for Girls in 1939, she attended Queen's University in Canada, where she obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree. She later earned a diploma in education at London University in England and spent a year of study in France. Throughout her 39 years of service, Mrs. Carewally taught at the Berkeley Institute, Sandys Secondary School, and Warwick Secondary in Bermuda, and at Canamar and Schlinker Secondary Schools in Sierra Leone. Mrs. Carewally was renowned for her gentle, caring manner, and past students often fondly referred to her as their favorite teacher.
I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, Mrs. B. Elizabeth Musson Carewally, who is, we believe, the oldest living member of the BUT, who was in her past held the position of secretary and also the position of president. We don't know the exact dates of when she held those posts, but we do believe it was in the 1940s. Early 1940s, we believe, because I think the records have her as Miss Musson, and very soon after that she became Mrs. Carewally. So we do have that date. Yes, well, I should note that my mother is currently 96 years old, or years young, as you can see from her youthful appearance. And she will turn 97 this year. So the union was actually formed just a few years before her birth. And then when, I think at a time when many people did not have the rights that we consider to be common and expected today, the union really played a very important role. And now, although we do have still quite a few conflicts, it's even more important for us to remember that we need to stick together, no matter what race, what age, what our socioeconomic background is, that together is how we will make progress in Bermuda for education.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, brothers and sisters. Our next honoree is past organizer, Brother Raymond Latter. From 1960 to 1963, Raymond Latter attended Teachers Training College, a branch of Southampton University. Mr. Latter came to Bermuda in 1967 and taught at the Robert Crawford School for 16 years. He became the school representative and a member of the Executive Council. In 1983 until 1986, Mr. Latter became the first organizer of the Amalgamated Bermuda Union of Teachers. His mandate was to set up programs and services to make the union fully professional, to serve its members, to spearhead negotiations, and establish relationships with other unions and the government. In 1986, Mr. Latter joined the ministry as the Officer for Science Education and was there until his retirement in 1997. Since retirement, Mr. Latter has been active in many organizations, including the Bermuda National Museum, the Bermuda National Trust, the Bermuda Zoological Society, and the Committee of 25 for Handicapped Children, and the Kiwanis Club.
Yes, I was recruited in 1967. most of our meetings in those days were held in rented rooms, sometimes in church vestries. It was not a big organisation. It was a small group of people who were elected to try to look after the cares and problems that teachers had. And as a volunteer, it was totally voluntary. Everybody served. There was no pay, there was no benefits or anything else. You just served because you were interested and you agreed with the principles that the union was there to show. Somewhere in the early 1980s, the union was able to get government to make teachers pay their union dues. They either had to pay union dues or they had to make a subscription to the union. And that was the first time that the union basically had any money, because although we had union dues, a lot of teachers might come to the meetings, but they didn't always necessarily pay their dues. And so we were playing with peanuts, literally. Perhaps one other thing that I did, which was that I was asked by the United Nations, one of the education committees or subcommittees, wanted a report on Bermuda schools, and that was my privilege to develop that report and send it to the United Nations, which is something that I always thought was a bit of a highlight for me. I would just like to say that the union, since I left, has gone from strength to strength. And I am so happy to be able to come back at this time in my life to see such a wonderful organization working for what I believe are the most important people in the world, the teachers.
Thank you very much, Brother Latter. Please welcome Brother Cranston Williams to present the next award.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. With great pleasure, I present our next honoree, past organizer and general secretary, Brother Milton Scott. Milton Scott has spent many years in education. He has held the positions of teacher, organizer, and general secretary of the Bermuda Union of Teachers. In fact, it was during his term that the title of organizer for the BUT was changed to general secretary. In addition to his contributions for our local union, he served as the general secretary of the Caribbean Union of Teachers, the umbrella organization that represents most teacher unions in the Caribbean region. Outside of education, Mr. Scott has also served as the Minister of Education. Currently, he is back in the classroom at the #1 primary school, Harrington Primary.
Okay, when I returned to Bermuda in 1979, I was actually employed as a psychometrist. I went around with a school psychologist, Dr. Norma Aswad, and we did psychological and intellectual assessment throughout the school, and from primary right on up to secondary school. During my tenure, probably one of the most significant things, aside from the purchase of the buildings, was the fact that we had a review board, a board of inquiry that looked into all of teachers' terms and conditions of service. At that time, a teacher who had only teacher training, and that was a lot of our older teachers, who were leaving the system, retiring, were only retiring on a salary of $32,000. And that was really a low amount. When we had the review board, but most of us call it the Dunch Award, the salary increased close to 27%, because there were two boards of inquiry. One that Michael Mallow did as an interim award, and he awarded 19%. Then the Dunch Award, which put 17% on top of that. Time was compounded. It was a fairly good salary. And so that was a very significant accomplishment. The union came together from senior school, primary school, middle schools was not there yet, and all of us made various presentations to the panel. And the panel did award not only salary, but lots of other things that have stood the test of time as far as I'm concerned. I say enjoy the celebration. Our founders, many of them are over in the graveyard that's just behind us, are now can turn. I wish they could just open their eyes and look out and see that the organization that they helped to build, it's still here and it will be here in perpetuity.
Unfortunately, Brother Scott was not able to make it this evening. Therefore, I am very happy to accept this award on his behalf. Please welcome Sister Shakerby Basin to present their next award.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. Our next past president to be honored is the Reverend Dr. Erskine Simmons. Reverend Dr. Erskine C. Simmons earned a Bachelor of Arts with honors from Queen's University in 1957 and his doctorate from Harvard in 1971. He became president of the BUT in the 1960s for 3 years. He was the chief signatory on the document for the amalgamation of the BUT and the Teachers Association to form the ABUT in 1964. On leaving the Berkeley Institute as a teacher, Dr. Simmons became an officer in the Ministry of Education. He was seconded from there, first as principal of Prospect Secondary School for Girls, and then as principal of St. George's Secondary School. Dr. Simmons' teaching career was extended when he became an adjunct professor in the Central State University School of Education. In addition, he has served as a pastor in AME churches, both locally and abroad. One meaningful membership is of the progressive group, organizers of the 1959 theater boycotts.
Yeah, my name is Reverend Dr. Erskine Simmons, and I was president of the Bermuda Union of Teachers in the early 60s. I suppose there are three sort of highlights in my mind of that time. One was that it was the first time that we had great cooperation between the Bermuda Union of Teachers and the Teachers Association of Bermuda. We actually organized a strike for, and basically we went on strike for an increase of salary. It was a one-day strike, but it was very effective, and Parliament in fact did give us an increase in salary. I guess the greatest increase anybody ever got in Bermuda, because it was 30%. That was quite an achievement to that government to change, and in that way and to recognize the value of the teachers. Secondly, one of the events that happened during my tenure was that Sir Edward Boyer, who was the Minister of Education for the UK, visited Bermuda during that time, and we actually got him to speak, to give an address to teachers at the venue was the Berkeley Institute Auditorium. And so we actually heard from Sir Edward Boyer at that time. That was also quite a interesting time in our history. And and then, of course, the other thing was the amalgamation of the two unions. And I was an integral part of that. And I signed for the amalgamation on behalf of the Bermuda Union of Teachers.
Thank you, Brother Simmons. Please welcome Sister Marian Dyer to present our next award.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. Our next president to be honored is Dr. Eva Hudson. Dr. Hudson is well known for her constant commitment to addressing racism faced by blacks in Bermuda. She was a geography teacher at the Berkeley Institute, and in 1983, she was seconded to the Department of Education in a bid to preserve oral history and introduce human rights in the social sciences and civics curriculum. She remains to this day a well-respected and outspoken race advocate, as she is best known as a veteran campaigner for civil rights. Most notably, Dr. Hudson was the first president of the Amalgamated Bermuda Union of Teachers, the joint union between the BUT and the Teachers Association of Bermuda, the TAB. She was appointed an OBE in 2011 for her commitment to addressing racial inequality.
I do know that at that time I was concerned because I was president of the BUT. I was concerned, as always, as you know, race is a big issue with me. And I was so concerned that by uniting, that the white group would dominate the black group when they came together. So that it was important at that time, to me, probably to nobody else, that we have a black president of the Amalgamated Union. We kept the term amalgamated for some time, and then after a while, you know, people said, well, why call it amalgamated? For one thing, I don't think that the white teachers were as strong a body in any case, so that the term amalgamated was eliminated back to just the Bermuda Union of Teachers. And I know that one white person, left the union at that point because it meant that by returning to the term Bermuda Union of Teachers, we were not recognizing the existence of the previous all-white union, so that the name even became important. The primary thing I would say is to congratulate you for recognizing the length of time that the union has been around, and to encourage you to continue to give it your support. I'm not going to say that its primary function is to help students, because I know that that's upmost in their mind, but I do want to encourage you in giving your support and continue to work with it, because after a while, if you don't it won't be active either in its own interest as well as in the interest of the students. So I am pleased to see that you are recognizing the long-term existence of it and wish you well in your efforts.
Brothers and sisters, please join me in welcoming BUT President, past President, Dr. Eva Hodson.
I'd like to say something. I'd love to say, I'm flattered, come to the mic. I'd love to say I'm flattered and surprised and consider this a very gracious act on the part of the union. Thank you very much.